The movie opens with Dale and Jamie, brothers and aspiring paranormal investigators, driving to the Ouachita National Forest in Arkansas. Their goal is to capture footage of the legendary Ouachita Beast, a cryptid rumored to inhabit the area. They arrive at a secluded cabin, their base of operations, and set up their equipment, including motion-activated cameras and sound recorders. Dale, the more serious and experienced of the two, emphasizes caution and adherence to their plan, while Jamie is more excitable and prone to reckless behavior. They spend their first few days trekking through the dense forest, searching for signs of the creature. Their initial findings are inconclusive, yielding only blurry images of local wildlife and natural sounds. As they venture deeper, they begin to notice unsettling occurrences. Strange guttural howls echo through the trees at night, unlike any known animal. Their motion cameras capture fleeting, indistinct shadows that seem to move with unnatural speed. One evening, a large dark figure briefly appears at the edge of their campsite, sending a chill down their spines before disappearing into the darkness. Dale tries to rationalize these events, attributing them to local fauna or the psychological effects of prolonged isolation, but Jamie becomes increasingly convinced they are on the right track. Their supplies begin to dwindle and the isolation weighs heavily on them, leading to arguments and frayed nerves. Their tension escalates when they discover a series of crude, unsettling symbols carved into trees around their cabin. These symbols, seemingly ancient and tribal, don't match any known local indigenous art. They also find a mutilated animal carcass far larger than what a typical predator would leave, with strange bite marks. These discoveries shatter Dale's attempts at rational explanation, and a growing sense of dread settles over both brothers. They realize they are dealing with something far more sinister than they initially imagined. Jamie, despite his fear, is invigorated by the undeniable proof, while Dale, recognizing the true danger, wants to leave. Jamie refuses, obsessed with capturing definitive proof. The film, The Ouachita Beast Incident, 2023, plunges us into the dense, foreboding Ouachita National Forest in Arkansas, where two brothers, Dale and Jamie, embark on a self-funded paranormal investigation. Dale, the older and more pragmatic of the two, is a seasoned amateur cryptid hunter, meticulously planning their expedition. Jamie, in contrast, is younger, more impulsive, and fueled by an eager, almost naive excitement. Their mission: to capture undeniable photographic and video evidence of the mythical Ouachita Beast, a creature whispered about in local folklore, said to stalk the remote wilderness. Their journey begins with a long drive to a secluded rustic cabin nestled deep within the forest, their chosen base of operations. The initial hours are spent setting up a sophisticated array of surveillance equipment, including multiple motion-activated cameras strategically placed around the perimeter of their property and sensitive sound recorders designed to pick up even the slightest anomaly in the nocturnal soundscape. Dale's instructions are precise: adhere strictly to the plan, maintain vigilance, and prioritize their safety. Jamie, despite his youthful exuberance, agrees, seemingly understanding the gravity of their undertaking. Their first few days are a grueling trek through the tangled undergrowth, scanning for tracks, disturbed vegetation, or any other telltale signs of a large unknown creature. Their initial efforts, however, yield only mundane results: blurry images of deer, raccoons, and other common forest animals, and recordings filled with the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves. The only tangible outcome of their early efforts is the deepening sense of isolation that settles over them. As they push further into the Ouachita wilderness, a subtle shift occurs. The ordinary gives way to the unsettling. On their third night, a series of strange guttural howls pierce the silence of the forest. These are unlike anything they've ever heard, too deep for a coyote, too varied for an owl, too primal for any known predator. The sound recorders, though they capture the eerie cries, offer no clear source. Their motion cameras, previously capturing only mundane wildlife, now begin to sporadically trigger, revealing fleeting, indistinct shadows that seem to move with an unnatural speed and fluidity far faster than any typical animal could manage. One particular evening, as a chilling mist rolls through the trees, a large dark figure briefly materializes at the very edge of their camp, its silhouette massive and vaguely humanoid. It vanishes as quickly as it appears, leaving behind a profound sense of unease. Dale, ever the rationalist, attempts to explain away these occurrences as tricks of light, echoes of distant wildlife, or the psychological effects of prolonged isolation in the dense woods. He tries to dismiss the shadows as optical illusions and the howls as misidentified animal calls. Jamie, however, is increasingly convinced. His earlier excitement morphs into a focused determination, seeing these anomalies as irrefutable signs that they are closing in on their quarry. The tension between the brothers, simmering beneath the surface, begins to boil over as their supplies start to dwindle and the weight of their isolation intensifies. Petty arguments become more frequent, fueled by fatigue and growing fear. A pivotal turning point comes when they stumble upon a series of crude, unsettling symbols carved into the bark of ancient trees surrounding their cabin. These symbols are unlike anything they've seen in books or on the internet. They don't align with any known local indigenous art or contemporary carvings. They appear ancient, almost ritualistic, and their presence sends a shiver down Dale's spine, challenging his steadfast rationalism. Shortly after this discovery, they find a mutilated animal carcass, a large deer torn apart with brutal efficiency. The bite marks are unusually large and jagged, far beyond what any known predator in the region could inflict. The sheer savagery of the kill is disturbing, and the brothers can find no tracks or other clear evidence of what might have been responsible. These combined discoveries shatter Dale's attempts at scientific explanation. A visceral, undeniable sense of dread now settles over both brothers. They realize with chilling clarity that they are dealing with something far more formidable and malevolent than a mere cryptid. This is a true, tangible threat. Jamie, despite his fear, is invigorated by this undeniable proof. His obsession deepens his desire to capture definitive evidence, overriding all sense of self-preservation. Dale, recognizing the genuine and profound danger they are in now, urgently wants to abandon the mission and leave the forest. Jamie, however, stubbornly refuses, his singular focus on proving the beast's existence overriding any thought of retreat. The climax of their ordeal arrives one terrifying night. The cabin, once a flimsy refuge, becomes a besieged fortress. Violent thumps and guttural growls emanate from the darkness outside, seemingly circling the structure, their movements deliberate and powerful. Dale and Jamie frantically barricade the doors and windows, their flashlights cutting desperate arcs through the gloom, revealing brief, terrifying glimpses of large shadowy figures moving just beyond the glass, their eyes glowing with an eerie faint red light in the darkness. The creature or creatures attempts to breach their sanctuary, their massive claws scraping and tearing at the wooden walls, their frustrated roars echoing through the night. The brothers, armed only with a single shotgun and a few flimsy hunting knives, huddle together, their previous bravado replaced by raw, visceral terror. They endure a relentless assault until the first rays of dawn pierce through the tree canopy, and as if on cue, the attacks suddenly cease. The following morning reveals the extent of the damage. Deep claw marks scar the cabin's exterior and several windows are shattered, leaving gaping holes. Exhausted, traumatized, and running on adrenaline, Dale unequivocally insists they must leave immediately. Jamie, however, has a desperate, almost suicidal plan. He believes they can lure the creature into a trap they've previously scouted, a heavily reinforced net connected to a tripwire, hoping to incapacitate it long enough to get clear, undeniable footage. Dale, despite his profound misgivings, reluctantly agrees. He knows it's a dangerous gamble, but it's their only chance to satisfy Jamie's perilous obsession and perhaps to escape with their lives. They gather their dwindling equipment and meticulously set up the trap near a small clearing, a site they had identified earlier as a potential hunting ground for the beast. As dusk settles, they wait in agonizing silence, the air thick with anticipation. Suddenly the ominous howls return, closer and more urgent this time, accompanied by the distinct snapping of branches under immense weight. The large, imposing figure of the Ouachita Beast finally emerges from the tree line. It is a bipedal creature covered in dense dark fur with piercing red eyes that glow with malevolent intelligence. Its razor-sharp claws are clearly visible, and it moves with a terrifying blend of primal ferocity and surprising agility. Jamie, overcoming his paralyzing fear, activates a powerful floodlight, momentarily disorienting the creature. It emits a furious roar, enraged by the sudden light, and charges directly towards them. Dale fires the shotgun, but the blast seems to have little effect. The creature merely staggers for a moment before continuing its relentless charge. The beast triggers the tripwire and the net springs into action, momentarily tangling its massive form. However, the creature's immense strength is evident as it begins to tear through the reinforced netting with shocking ease, though it is visibly slowed. This brief window of opportunity allows Dale and Jamie to activate additional cameras, capturing clearer though still chaotic footage of the beast. They realize with a fresh wave of terror that their initial plan to capture the creature alive was a fool's errand. It is far stronger, more intelligent, and more resilient than they could have ever imagined. The beast, now largely free, lunges directly at Jamie, who narrowly dodges its attack. Dale, seeing his brother's life in imminent danger, abandons all thoughts of meticulous capture. He grabs their last remaining video camera, no longer caring about perfect shots, and screams for Jamie to run. They flee deeper into the unforgiving forest, the beast hot on their heels. The chase is brutal, a desperate scramble for survival. Jamie trips, injuring his leg, but Dale helps him up, pushing him forward. They know they cannot outrun it. Cornered at the edge of a deep ravine with no escape route, they prepare for a desperate final stand. The creature, though wounded by the net and perhaps the shotgun blast, is still formidable and corners them against the steep drop. In a last desperate act, Dale remembers a local legend, a fragmented tale told by an old forest ranger about a specific pungent plant that supposedly repels the beast. He frantically crushes a handful of its leaves and hurls them at the creature's face. The beast recoils, howling in apparent pain, its glowing red eyes momentarily dimming. This provides a crucial fleeting window of opportunity for Dale and Jamie to scramble down the ravine, sliding and falling down the steep incline, barely escaping the enraged creature. The film concludes with Dale and Jamie battered, bruised, and profoundly traumatized, limping out of the vast silent forest. They don't have the pristine, perfectly clear footage they initially sought, but the blurry, chaotic recordings they managed to salvage, coupled with their physical injuries and the undeniable psychological scars, serve as potent if imperfect evidence of their harrowing encounter. The final scene shows them submitting their evidence to a skeptical yet visibly intrigued cryptozoological society. This ending suggests that while their individual quest for definitive proof may have concluded, the legend of the Ouachita Beast has been given new life, and their terrifying experience will continue to resonate, fueling further speculation and fear. The last shot is of the Ouachita National Forest, once again shrouded in an unsettling mystery, leaving the audience to ponder whether the formidable creature still lurks within its untamed depths, waiting for its next encounter. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.